Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unwise Girls. I'm your host, Jacqueline.
And I'm your other host, Jane.
And we're your premier podcast all about discussing the works of Rick Riordan. Right now, we're on Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 5, The Last Olympian.
No
chapters.
more Olympians.
No more. No, fucking Wanda Maximoff. No more Olympians.
Oh, I see. I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's a funny little joke about comic books.
It's about this niche thing you might not have heard of. It's called Marvel Comics.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you are into Marvel comics these days. I know people really like Superman. I know people really like Batman. I don't know if people really like... I know they're kind of underground, sort of in the space right now.
I prefer Bowler, frankly.
That's a terrible disease. Anyway, let's get started. Today we're reading chapters, I believe, 12 through 14 of The Last Olympian. Chapter 12. Rachel makes a bad deal. Percy and son of Apollo Will Solace rush to the plaza in Central Park where Annabeth is being kept, with only a quick interruption by an irate statue of Pompona. When they arrive, Will cleans and dresses Annabeth's poisoned knife wound, and the Stoll brothers lead some demigods to a drugstore for supplies. Silena, blaming herself for not being a better fighter, convinces Percy to let her fly back to Camp Half-Blood and convince Clarice to join. When they're alone, Percy and Annabeth have an intimate moment in which he reveals to her his weak point, and she reveals to him that Hermes is angry with her because Luke tried to reach out to her last year, but she rebuked his offer for them to run away together. She's worried that she should have just killed him then. Back outside, Grover and Thalia give an update on the battle. It's going poorly, due in no small part to the spy leaking information. Percy takes a nap, and during it he dreams of Nico trying to summon his mother's ghost, and has a scene of Hades trying to convince her to come live in the underworld, safe from Zeus, but to no avail. Zeus sends a lightning bolt down towards them, and Hades is only able to save the children. And that's when the young Oracle of Delphi comes out of the shadows to say, "I told you so." Hades curses that so long as his children remain outcast and the great prophecy is active, the Oracle will never have another mortal host. The dream then shifts to Rachel, convincing her parents to take her back to New York so she can deliver an important message to Percy. In exchange, she promises to go to finishing school. He's then woken up by Thalia because a Titan has come to talk. Chapter 13. A Titan brings me a present. Prometheus, the Titan of fire, forethought, and crafty counsel, arrives under a banner of truce, surrounded by an entourage that includes Ethan Nakamura. He's here to talk Percy down, saying that if he surrenders, New York will be spared, and his forces will be granted amnesty. Otherwise, devastation is almost guaranteed. Percy takes a jab at Ethan, saying that not being able to kill them would surely put a dent in his revenge plan. But Prometheus stops things before they blow up by showing Percy the rest of Luke's story. The night Luke, Annabeth, and Thalia visited Luke's mom, his dad showed up, and they got in a huge argument, where Hermes refused to tell Luke about his mother's condition, what could happen to Luke in his future, and made it clear that he wouldn't be any more of a presence in Luke's life than he already had been, which was essentially none. When Percy comes to, he's pissed at the gods but still angry with Kronos, and he makes that clear. As a last resort, Prometheus gives Percy the Jar of Pandora, and tells him that when he wants to surrender, he can simply open it and let go of Elpis, spirit of hope. The truce party then departs, leaving Percy with his decisions to be made. Chapter 14. Pigs Fly. After the meeting, Thalia and Percy convene so Thalia can warn Percy not to soften on Luke like Annabeth has. That night, in his dreams, Percy sees his father's palace destroyed, and Tyson and his fellow Cyclopes under attack. Then, he sees Ethan Nakamura at Kronos' war camp, situated in Auntie M's Garden Gnome Emporium, being questioned about where on Percy's body he'd been aiming when Annabeth jumped in the way, though he can't exactly recall. We also see a brief slip that indicates Luke's consciousness may still be somewhat present. Afterwards, the dream shifts to the early 90s, where May Castellan, despite Hermes' protests, enters Camp Half-Blood in an attempt to host the spirit of the Oracle. It doesn't end well. When he gets up, it's back to battle, even for the injured Annabeth. The main characters gather to make their stand, while the remaining cabins guard the other entrances to the Manhattan. The Central Park skirmish comes to a head when the Golden Warrior Hyperion, Titan of the East and the Lord of Light, who Percy previously saw in his dream, arrives in full blazing fury. He and Percy engage in an epic one-on-one on the surface of the lake, and the tide turns in Percy's favor when he harnesses the power of storms and drives the Titan to the satyrs, who imprison him in a maple tree. There's no time for rest, though, because Kronos then unleashes the Plasmonian Sow, a giant flying pig that begins to tear through the city. Percy grapples onto it and, in combination with Blackjack, flies wildly through the city, eventually managing to activate Grand Central Terminal's Hermes statue and the public library's lion statues. They tear apart the pig, and Percy and Blackjack fly back to battle. So, what did you think of these chapters?
This book's just going from strength to strength, to be honest.
Yeah?
Like, these were just really good. Cool action stuff, cool character stuff. It's just really good.
No, yeah, it rules. I feel like this may be the strongest middle section a Percy Jackson book has had so far.
Yeah, because it tends to be a case of, like, we start the quest, we get, like, the inciting incident, and then it's kind of standalone chapters fucking around on a road trip, and then we get the big finale.
And we of course, really like the road trips, but it still has a very different flavor.
I think the vibe I get from this is maybe like the last season of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Ooh.
Where it's just like, it's 12 straight episodes of the battle in Central.
Yes.
And that's kind of what this is. It's not just a few chapters long like we were maybe expecting. It is just a full drawn-out siege.
And it doesn't feel tired, because there's, like, this is really going in on, like, there is so much to a battle of this scale.
Yeah, for sure. We are like, it's not just they attack the defenses, get repelled, attack the defenses again. Like, Kronos' army are attacking in different ways, and the demigods are, like, responding in different, like, really fun and inventive strategies.
Mm-hmm. And there's the moments of, like, tactics meetings, like taking care of injuries. There's just, like, the little moments of respite between fighting, and those are all really good too.
Yeah, definitely.
I think maybe my favorite part about that, to go a little bit non-chronologically, is the middle chapter of these.
Oh, absolutely.
Because none of it is a battle, none of it is, there's conflict, but none of it is like, the entire chapter is just one conversation.
Yeah, it's well, like you were saying, the really good bits, especially like the breaks in the action, and the parlay with Prometheus is, like, I like all these chapters. I think it's easily the strongest of the three. Like, Prometheus is one of those villains who I love to see in fiction.
Yes.
He is honest, and he is, like, genuinely good at arguing. Like, he's not some irrational, like, straw man, I guess. Like, he's not unreasonable. You could actually sit down and have a conversation with him, but he is a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, I really enjoy this book's take on Prometheus, because I think Prometheus is generally, like, a figure who people think fondly of, I guess.
Yeah, you go to any given science fiction show, they'll name a spaceship after Prometheus.
Definitely. And it's always, like, you know, connotations of, like, innovation and, you know, humankind and all that stuff. But this book kind of goes with that and is like, well, this guy isn't just, like, purely, like, he's not like, oh, I'm on the side of the humans forever for no, like, specific reason. He very much has his own beliefs, his own goals, and his own, like, little... He's the god of, or the Titan, I suppose, of crafty counsel. He's the Titan of forethought. And, like, you can tell that he has all these little, like, motivations going on.
Yeah, definitely. It's what the series has always been great at doing, is taking these mythological figures and humanizing them really well, and saying like, well, okay, what would actually motivate a character like this? Well, probably some revenge as well. His motivations definitely weren't completely pure.
Yeah, like, he admits it. Like, hey, I'm doing this because I think Cronus is going to win. Also, I really hated it when the gods tied me up and had vultures peck at my liver for 1,000 years.
Which, understandable, have a nice day.
Yeah, it's like, I can't blame you for that, dude. I get it. There's a lot of, like, I can't blame you for that, dude. I get it in these chapters.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to get into the Luke stuff?
I don't think... I want to stay on Prometheus for a little bit because I think this chapter just, like, rules. I want to chat about it for a while.
Definitely.
Like, I think the direct comparison to, like, the Trojan War is pretty effective.
Yeah, that's... I don't know, it's a neat way of using the scenario that's been set up and just, like, linking it back to... It's come a long way from just, like, copy-pasting stuff from Greek myth to actually, like, organically creating situations that have parallels to Greek myths.
That's right. And I think that, like, part of this that I really... Okay, I had to stop myself because I know, like, I'm talking about, like, oh, Prometheus is this really good character and he's very cool. I had a little bit of a hard time taking him seriously at first.
Oh?
Because the way he's described... The way he's described is that he is... Like, Grover sees him from a distance and is like, I don't like the look at him. He looks like a magician. He looks like he's going to pull... Like, oh, funny, Grover doesn't like bunnies and stuff. And I was like, okay, he looks like a magician. That's okay, sure. But then it's like, oh, he has, like, glasses and, like, his, like, black hair, like, tied back. And the only note I wrote on these chapters is that Prometheus is Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller.
Oh, that's cursed. I don't like that.
But it's just true. It's just true.
You're right, but you shouldn't say it.
Like, you don't realize looking at it that he does have an extreme... Like, Prometheus is registered libertarian.
To be fair, his experience with government is, again, being tied to a rock and having his liver pecked out.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I guess let's go to Luke now.
Yeah, the second case of, yep, can't blame you.
Yeah, tell us about what happened here.
So we get a couple of flashbacks in these chapters. The first one is we see, like, where Hestia's flashback cut off. Like, she stopped at the moment where Hermes arrived in the forest while Luke, Thalia, and Annabeth were, like, sneaking into Luke's mum's house to steal medical supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And we see them actually going inside, and we get to see, like, you know, Thalia and Annabeth freaking out because of Luke's mum's condition. So basically, Luke and Hermes have a massive fight over the fact that, you know, Hermes hasn't been there for Luke and has just, like, left him with his mother, who very clearly needs, like, full-time care.
Yeah.
And Hermes is, like, throwing out this stuff like, oh, just go to Camp Half-Blood and you'll be able to do some cool quests like in Greek myths. And Luke, quite justifiably, tells him to fuck off.
Okay. This part made me, like jump up and down in excitement with, like, how correct we were, like, a couple books ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because this pretty much confirms that, like, in the gods' eyes, the way that, like, the Camp Half-Blood kids do quests is purely, like, a method of getting them out of their hair.
Yeah.
It's like, go repeat these old classic tales, do your silly little stuff, steal the apple, fight a dragon, and don't bother us.
Get maimed.
Get maimed, preferably don't live too long. I can totally see why, like, Luke is totally justified in this moment in being like, I never want to see you again. I have my own family now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you mentioned we also get another flashback, or not a flashback really, but we get kind of told by Annabeth about something that happens.
Yeah, we get to see, like, what happened to Luke's mom. And again, this is something that we called a little while ago, where we predicted that it would be something to do with the Oracle and her trying to take on those abilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything going completely to shit in the process.
And we also get to see Annabeth talking about how, like, Luke came to visit her, and, like, this is before the Battle of the Labyrinth, and, like, he was like, hey, I'm really scared. Kronos is like, this is too much. I think he's going to, like, kill me. I want to, like, run away with you.
And this is like, okay, we're 3 for 3 here, because we also predicted that whatever happened with Annabeth, like, no matter how monumentous the decision was, it absolutely would not count as her fault, and was definitely on Hermes.
Absolutely not her fault. Definitely not. Like, there's no way. Like, okay. Like, Luke is like... Luke no longer qualifies to use the, I'm literally neurodivergent and a minor. He's like 20 now. He can't say it anymore.
Oh, fuck.
And he's like, okay, Annabeth, I know you're 15, but can we run away together? And I'm like really scared. I joined all the fascists, and it's not as cool as I thought it'd be. Like, I'm sympathetic towards him, obviously, but like, I saw a post earlier on Twitter, and I'm always really excited to see people posting about Percy Jackson on Twitter.
Uh-huh.
But I think it was Riley Rethal on Twitter posted like a thing that was like, oh, Luke is such a good example of just like a white guy who feels like he hasn't been treated good enough, like properly to his position in society, and so he joins up with the fascists. It really is just like, that's who he is.
It kind of is, yeah. Because, I mean, to just like throw a dart at the board and pick an example, Clarice has had, we haven't seen it as explicitly as Luke's circumstances, but we can kind of glean that she's had a pretty fucked up upbringing.
Not like arguably worse, like they're both bad, but like her godly parent isn't like absent. Her godly parent is
present and physically abusing her.
Yeah. And like, not to be like, oh, like both of these situations are obviously terrible, but it's very much the thing of like, oh, like you didn't have to choose this, and you're very much using your like experiences as an excuse.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I guess that was one thing I was kind of worried we'd get with these chapters, is like, it would be like, oh, Luke's fall from grace was like inevitable, but like, no, we still very much have the impression that like he has still had a hand in this. He fucked up and made some bad decisions. Absolutely.
One thing for sure is that like I really, the shine is off of Hermes at this point.
Yeah, we I think we even wrote in an episode description that where Hermes stands at some point. We need to officially rescind that.
Hermes no longer our best friend. Dionysus is our best friend now.
Correct. Well, Dionysus spends time with his children.
He does. He's there. He's at camp. He's there for I don't know if he's there for them, but you know what I mean.
I mean, he's there cheating on their mom with wood nymphs, but still.
Yeah, they seem like the kind of couple who would have an open relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? That's fair enough, actually. If you're married to the god of hedonism and partying, you don't go in expecting monogamy.
You're presumably into it.
Yeah.
Oh God, are they the kind of couple who are like looking for a third? We have so many bases covered with the gods.
They are all kinds of weird sex people.
Like we've got Hephaestus, Aphrodite, and Ares on one side.
Yeah.
We've got Dionysus, and who's Dionysus's wife? Ariadne? That's not right.
No, I think you're right. I think it is.
I'm thinking of Arachne. That's why I got confused. But yes, Ariadne. Like they're on the other side. I'm sure that Hera is, I don't know, into
Hera and Zeus are like the seemingly picture perfect couple who like live in a big house in a suburban neighborhood. but you know for a fact that they are both plotting to murder each other.
Hera shows up to the Met Gala wearing the Peg the Patriarchy shirt. Actually, I don't think she would do that. I think she'd be like, I like the patriarchy, actually.
Don't make me say it.
What?
Does she have a patriarchy kink?
I don't think that would be her position in the sexual dynamics of it, to be honest.
All I'm saying is that maybe she was actually really happy when the council became unbalanced.
Traditional family values. Okay. I want to talk about, there's a lot of cool stuff here.
God, you ever just have like a completely cursed thought? I know for a fact that you know exactly who to blame for putting it in your head.
What was it?
The idea to make a shitpost, which is assigning all the Olympians like troll romance types.
Holy shit.
This is your fault.
I didn't do anything. I never made you say that. I didn't say that to you. I didn't say you had to do that.
The concepts did not exist in my brain until you put them there.
One day I said, Jane, wouldn't it be fun if we did a podcast? And you agreed to it. So you agreed to podcast with me. You knew what would happen.
Yeah, no, I knew what I was getting into.
Oh, God. Let's talk a little bit about that first chapter.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most of the ultimate meat feels like it comes in the second two, but there's a lot of interesting stuff here too.
Yeah, I'm absolutely 1000% certain now.
About what?
Annabeth is the spy. The knife is a bugged magical item that she doesn't realize she's carrying.
I don't know. That thought was like coursing through my veins the entire time. Because there's a really, really good scene here when Percy and Annabeth get their time alone together. And it's just Annabeth, like, them getting sort of a tender moment. And Annabeth is like, so where is your weak spot? And, like, he just, like, guides her hand to it. Mm-hmm. And she, like, rubs her fingers along his back. And it's very, like, just, like, intimate. And, like, I don't know. It's, like, good for these kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, like, kind of like an electric scene. Insofar as, like, this is really well-written, like, romantic tension.
Yeah.
But it's also, I guess I feel like that tension is, like, electrified in a way and, like, in a good way, by the underlying tension of, like, why is she asking this? Like, does this feel like she should be asking this? What if this information gets out? Isn't this too dangerous?
See, I don't know. I don't know if she's like asking it on purpose because she is a spy. I think it maybe just comes across that way because it's a slightly ham-fisted setup for like why Kronos would know that, so that we have like a very explicit scene to point to later on.
But the thing is that so far, at least, Kronos doesn't know it.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. Actually, he doesn't seem to during the deep dream sequence where we see our favorite character, Ethan Nakamura.
Yeah, our best boy, Ethan, who we've never called him Nathan. We've never called him, what's that fucking guy's name?
Chris Rodriguez?
We've never called him Chris. He's always, we always get his name right. The only situation in that scene where I could see it being true is that, like, maybe he's testing Ethan's loyalties.
Yeah.
But I think that would be more, like, signaled, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like Ethan having like shaky loyalty isn't really something that's been telegraphed. He seemed pretty into the whole fascist thing so far.
Yeah, basically. I'm so, like, torn on Ethan. He gets a little bit more to do in these chapters, but
he just kind of seems like a chump.
I think the Nemesis stuff was interesting. The stuff where he was like, he revealed that it was his mom who took his eye out.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting, and it's like, wow, that's fucked up. Sorry, kid.
Yeah, well, you know what? Everyone in this series has a fucked up parent. Get a better gimmick.
Yeah, but most of them don't do, like, physical harm, eye removal.
I guess. Wait, no, Ares does.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Wait, whose eyes did he remove?
His own, to replace them with the little nuclear fireballs.
Ooh, that's not even close to what I meant, but yeah, you're right. What do you think of the Hades scene?
I think it strikes a really good balance of like the Luke stuff. I think it makes us sympathize with Hades, but it doesn't. It kind of immediately comes in after that and reminds us he is still an Olympian. He's still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because like what happens to him is genuinely horrific.
Definitely.
Like his lover is vaporized out of nowhere, and he can never see his children again, basically. And then he takes it out on a small child.
The thing with like, it's genuinely horrific. There's a lot of, I feel for Hades here, and then the Oracle comes out and is like, I told you so. And
okay, she did kind of have it coming.
But also you're right that this is like an 8-year-old or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Being like nana nana boo boo,
And then in response to that, Hades being like, I curse your entire bloodline until the end of time.
Yeah, I will forever curse your spirit so that never again, while the great prophecy holds, will you ever be able to take on another mortal form.
Mm-hmm.
It's genuinely like, okay, Hades, calm down. We get it. Your fascist wife died.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that.
He even says, like, this war has been pretty bad for the family. The European war. It's so, like... I feel like we talk about, like, this Chronos side as being, like, fascist a lot. We say that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having World War II brought up so much is genuinely kind of helpful in establishing a parallel there.
Okay.
I can hear your hesitance.
Well, I was thinking it slightly muddies the issue a little because it kind of makes it out like Hades is the face of that kind of thing.
I think it's less like a direct parallel in that exact way of like Hades is the face of this, and more so like setting up like these are the dynamics of large scale conflicts in this story.
You ever think about how in the Harry Potter books they just did World War II twice? Like they do it with Grindelwald in actual World War II, and then Voldemort is just like Hitler again.
You're saying I shouldn't try and make this Harry Potter?
I'm a little bit saying that maybe we're going down the Harry Potter route again.
The thing about Percy Jackson that differentiates it from Harry Potter is that it's good.
Correct. Yeah, it's leagues ahead.
And that it actually kind of has something to say about like political position or like ideology at least.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair.
What do you think is going on with the Rachel stuff?
I don't know. At the minute, it seems kind of like it's just a fucked up thing going on in the background. And I don't see how it can even like impact the main plot, because I assume that it had been established that like, Kronos made a fucking black hole around New York so that the closer you get, the slower time gets until you reach the event horizon and you completely stop. So you just can't get in to help.
I am curious about that too. I assume there'll be some way that like she can, get in there.
Oh, maybe she'll arrive at the same time that Typhon does, actually.
Oh, shit. I feel like that'd be way too late by that point.
Quite possibly, yeah.
I kind of like don't know if Typhon is gonna arrive. Like I feel like the conflict will be over.
Yeah.
But I guess if you fire a bullet in Act 1, or even like in Act 3 of a previous book, or I guess like you chamber a bullet in Act 2. You chamber a bullet in Part 4, Act 2. And then kind of shoot it at the end. Or like you put your finger on the trigger at like Part 4, Act 3. And then like it's pulled in between books. And so then it's just kind of firing the entire book. I assume eventually the bullet's going to get somewhere.
You're not wrong.
So what I'm saying is that
If you set up a giant storm giant in Act 1, you got to pay it off in Act 3.
yes, but it just feels like such a big like this is like tearing apart the entirety of the United States.
True, but on the other hand, Percy is invulnerable, so you probably sick him on it.
Can we talk about the Hyperion Duel?
Yes.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Top 5 Percy Jackson anime fights.
It did have a little bit of that to it. With the, like, dashing at each other across the water and then, like, summoning massive storm powers.
There's a very specific part that I think, like, brought this kind of, like, I guess, like, quote-unquote, like, epic feeling where, like, Hyperion, like, releases a burst of light to blind Percy. He manages to close his eyes and instinctively brings his sword up. Hyperion's sword at that moment, like, clashes down to meet it. And the water, because they're both standing on a lake at the same time. And the water, like, ripples in a big circle outwards from them. Like, it's such a cool description. And also is just, like, very, very evocative of a very specific style of fight that you see in anime.
Yeah, you can see the fight slow down for the ripple spreading out as you're reading it. And
it's extremely Naruto. And I don't hate it. This might be one of my favorite fights we've seen in the series so far.
Yeah, no, it's a really fun action scene, and I think it's still really good when it, like, moves on to being about the giant boar.
Yeah.
With just, like, a really fun aerial chase and, like, Percy coming up with a creative solution for dealing with it.
I got really confused for a while while reading this. Because viewers, listeners, demigods may know or may not know that sometimes when I'm reading things, my eyes do this funny thing where they flip words around.
Oh my god, Jacqueline Demigod real?
This is maybe. So my eyes did this funny thing where I thought that it had described the sow as a pig lady instead of a lady pig. So I was imagining, like, a weird, like, hybrid woman pig winged monster flying through New York, also, like, at giant size.
So you were just imagining, like, a giant woman with wings, like, sashaying out with a nose hook on.
Okay, Jane. Okay. We need to stop podcasting together eventually. You save it for the bonus episodes.
Fair enough. They're behind a paywall and only, like, 3 people listen to them, so we can say what we want.
Yeah, listen to the bonus episodes, by the way. I did deliver maybe the most sick burn of Jane of all time on the last one.
You did. You destroyed me.
Yeah, I actually really like the resolution to the sow stuff, though.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of grisly.
Yeah, he just, like, is like, okay, statues, beat this pig to death.
Yep. And, like, they're made of stone. So it's not even like, oh, it's an animal fight like in nature. No, it's like just these giant rocks beating a living thing to death.
It's a statue of a god using its stone caduceus to, like, slam down atop the pig. And, like, the stone claws of the famous New York lions, like, piercing through its flesh. It's wild.
Yeah, it's...
What else is there to speak on in these chapters?
Oh, actually, there's one point that I wanted to bring up that is just kind of weird.
Go ahead.
Which is when Nico is, like, trying to summon his mother's spirit to find out what the hell happened to her.
Yeah.
Bianca shows up. To be like, don't do this.
Yeah.
And it feels weird for her to come back for this. Because we had, like, a very final encounter with her in, I think, Battle of the Labyrinth, where she's like, hey, Nico, stop trying to resurrect me. Don't call me up from the dead anymore. And then we get a scene here where, like, that happens. She's back up from the dead, and Nico doesn't really seem to acknowledge it and just dismisses her.
She's just, like, Clippy.
Are you sure you want to resurrect this particular spirit?
Yeah, I agree that it's kind of weird. I don't... like I can see why, like logically, like in the internal logic of the story, because like he's not trying to resurrect her. He's just like calling her, like they're on the same plane. He's in the underworld right now.
I don't mean like from a plot standpoint. I just mean like thematically, it seems weird.
No, I completely agree. Like I'm what I'm saying is that like I can understand the like internal logic of it, insofar as like I can see why this would be a case where like he could call her and it would be fine. But it did feel like a final resolution, and it did feel like it was kind of like, oh, this is the last we're gonna see of Bianca.
Yeah, I feel like you could just like put King Minos here or something.
That could have been interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird moment that kind of retroactively cheapens that arc a little bit, I think. It's not a huge deal. It's just kind of...
Yeah, no, I feel it. I feel it. The core of it is still there. He's not even trying to get in contact with Bianca, but it's kind of like... It kind of feels like it added on to that arc, because it's her being like, don't try and resurrect me, don't try and talk to me. But also, and then it's like, okay, in this book, also don't try and talk to your mom.
Yeah. Like, what is even the point of being the Death God's kid if you can't use your powers to violate the laws of life and death?
It's a good question. I mean, like, I guess it's okay if he talks to anyone else, just not his family. And maybe Bianca's okay with it while he's in the underworld.
I guess.
But, like... I don't know. It's weird. It's a little weird. I agree. I also thought that like it was kind of unclear like what exactly was happening in this. It pretty much goes straight from like Nico tries, Bianca shows up, is like, hey, don't do that. Nico's like, I'm gonna do it anyway, and then it like explodes into a different scene. I can't tell if Nico is also seeing this or not.
I'd assume that was Hades showing him it to try and get him to stop digging.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Although, I guess that wouldn't actually... It probably raises more questions than it answers for Nico.
I kind of assumed that, like, Hades standing there afterwards was a sign of, like, oh, Nico's going to be in trouble after this.
Oh, I think he definitely will be.
But, like, I think that's what Hades was there to, like, indicate. Not necessarily, like, oh, Hades is standing here because he showed it to Nico.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to tell if, like, trying to resurrect his mom, or, like, not resurrect her, because he's not trying to resurrect her, he's trying to talk to her.
Yeah.
If trying to talk to her, like, caused that vision, or if it was just a thing in Percy's dream.
Yeah, it's a little unclear. I guess, well, I was about to say, I guess it doesn't really matter, because all we need to know is that Percy knows, but I would imagine that Nico is going to show back up. So, actually, some clarification there might be decent.
What else is there to talk about? Grover's still just Grover.
But Grover is he's eating furniture in the lobby of the hotel.
He says blah haha.
Specifically Louis the 16th furniture.
That's wait, is that even correct?
Yes.
That one's correct? Okay.
Yeah, because it's Louis the 16th, but it's the French dude.
I don't know French guys. Is he the one who had he had like an eternal hemorrhoid or whatever?
That was a lot of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, Grover's still just doing his thing. I did like the moment where he and all the satyrs like trapped Hyperion in a maple tree. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was a cool moment.
Otherwise, it's just whatever.
He continues to exist.
Yeah, Thalia is a little bit more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
She's acting as kind of like, I guess, like a counterpart to Annabeth in Percy's ear, insofar as she's telling him like, hey, you gotta kill Luke.
And to be fair, she is right.
Yeah, and like, I think it's interesting how Thalia and Annabeth's relationships with Luke differ, because I think a lot of it is the age difference.
Absolutely. Like, to Thalia, Luke is like a peer.
He was like a brother, but like in a different way than he was like a big brother to Annabeth, because Annabeth like idolized him.
Yeah, Thalia doesn't have this like idealized view of him. Like, she was very quick to accept that he turned traitor back in Titan's Curse.
Yeah, even though there's obviously a little bit of conflict there, but it's not the same as Annabeth, and I appreciate that. That's good, like, attention to character dynamics and stuff.
Definitely.
I feel like these chapters were a little bit, not like empty, but I feel like they got to their point pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this last week as well, where it's like, even the ones that are supposed to be like quote unquote breathing room are packed with like important stuff to dig into, and there's not really a lot of like more quiet character moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would say that this was a little bit more heavy on those character moments than the past few have been.
Yeah, there were a few, but not as many as you would get in, like, for example, the road trip chapters from previous books.
Yeah, and I'm into it still. You know, let's hit some fast things because I think we're just about done.
Yeah.
The statue of Pompona.
Oh yeah, that's a weird section.
It's interesting. I think it's like it feels like it's hinting towards some future stuff.
Yeah, I know that we do get some like Roman god stuff later.
And I'm into that. I like that, like, oh, we see how at least the statues of these gods, who seem to be somewhat, you know, in line with the personality of the gods, hold like a bit of resentment for being viewed as like exactly the same as their counterparts.
Which I guess means we retroactively have to remove like justice for Hestia, for the asteroid Vesta having that amount on it.
It's sad, but, you know.
Hey, speaking of that section, I think Rick really does just have like a dartboard with a bunch of famous people like pinned up on it. And he just kind of throws them, and whatever one the dart hits, that one turns out to be a demigod.
Okay, so the new ones that we got this week were the Beatles.
All four of them.
I wonder if they have the same parent. Like, were they just a group of like brothers of Apollo?
Maybe.
Or like maybe Ringo was like they were all sons of Apollo except for Ringo. Ringo was like a son of like Demeter or someone.
God, who would be the god of trains? Because that is who like Ringo's parent would be.
God of I guess like Hermes?
Yeah.
Am I making this up, or did we hear at some point that Harriet Tubman's real father was Hermes?
Harriet Tubman is definitely a demigod.
I feel like I'm still really angry about that.
Especially because the founding fathers were also all demigods.
And I think who was pointed out in this chapter other than the Beatles? It was
Alfred Hitchcock.
Alfred Hitchcock, maybe the funniest pull possible. Like, he's not even been dead that long.
No, and he's like, he just made movies.
And like, he made some good movies, but like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
If you were a special or important or rich person at any point, it's because you were genetically predisposed to being special or rich or important.
I'm sorry to say this, but I know deep in my heart that it's true.
Yeah.
If this series was written today, Barack Obama would be a demigod.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this series went after Barack Obama became president.
Yeah.
It's we can't say that it's not going to happen.
I think Barack Obama would be like the son of Hephaestus.
Why Hephaestus?
Well, Hephaestus has a fixation on building automatons, and I feel like that goes quite well with drone strikes.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that tracks to me. That tracks to me. Jesus Christ. I just think there's something so you know, people, I guess it's the thing of like, oh, a lot of these are demigods, but they never realize they're because I feel like that's kind of like, now that I'm thinking about it too hard, it's like, oh, demigods don't grow up to be old unless they're celebrities.
I was thinking that as well, especially because of the Alfred Hitchcock thing. Because like, he was quite old, and yet we seem to never see any demigods live past 17.
Paul McCartney is still alive.
And I don't know, if I knew that I was like the child of a god, I would not sit around narrating Thomas the Tank Engine. I would actually sit around narrating Thomas the Tank Engine, but that's because I have a love of trains instilled in me by that show.
Yeah, I mean, you're still a human if you're a demigod.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone would do that. Silena gets some interesting stuff here.
Uh-huh.
Silena's just like torn up about not being able to do more, and she flies back to Camp Half-Blood to try and convince Clarice to join.
I mean, we all know how that's gonna go, right? It's gonna be like fucking that battle in Return of the King, where all hope is lost and the city's falling, and then fucking Rohan comes over the hill.
Who the fuck is Rohan?
The nation of Rohan, the Horse Lords.
The Horse Lords?
Have you not seen Lord of the Rings?
I've seen Lord of the Rings, but this sounds made up. Is that the part where she's like, I am no man, or whatever?
It's a little bit after that.
Or, doesn't she have a horse?
Yeah.
Is she a horse lord?
Yeah, she's like the princess of Rohan.
Okay, well, I guess I do remember them then.
Anyway, my point is, it's going to be that scene, but with like 30 skinny teenagers from Ares' cabin.
And I will cheer and clap.
Absolutely. Listen, more Clarice content is what we're all here for.
I'm always a sucker for like, the reticent, kind of surly ones. I like Vegeta. This is my truth. I'm a big Vegeta fan.
One day I'll watch Dragon Ball.
And yes, and when Vegeta comes along and is like, Kakarot, it looks like you're too weak to do this, and joins in with Goku and fighting fucking Cell or whatever. It's always good.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that scene.
Should we head to our segment?
I think we should head to our segment.
Percy Jackson is not cishet. Percy Jackson characters are not cishet. Sorry, the segment just keeps expanding.
I mean, it hasn't expanded for several episodes.
Percy Jackson books are not cishet. This week we're talking about why The Sea of Monsters is an inherently queer text.
Sailors. End of discussion.
End of discussion. Jane, I'm going to take the first slot this week.
Go for it, while I try desperately to think of something.
The Percy Jackson character who is not cishet is Will Solace.
Ooh, okay.
There's just something in my brain that tells me that Will Solace is maybe gay, maybe bi. There's just like something about him.
I mean, Apollo just kind of has that energy.
A little bit.
So I feel like all of his kids inherit that.
That's true. Good for them. Exactly.
Well, this leaves me with a slam dunk, because I was absolutely certain that you were going to say Silena Beauregard.
Wait, why is that?
For, like, rushing off on, like... on
a white horse?
On a white horse to fetch her love to rescue her from this terrible situation.
I feel like she's bringing her love into a dangerous situation, actually.
Well, yeah, but to save all her friends.
Yeah, totally. I do kind of wish I'd said that. But I feel confident in my guess as well.
Fair enough.
I think that'll do it for us today.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I've been slightly woozy and off this episode. I was kicked in the head yesterday. I'm still a little bit...
Jane got into a street fight.
I was sparring in a controlled environment in a taekwondo club, and I got laid the fuck out.
I mean, you're a black belt, right? You're supposed to get laid out like 20,000 times before you become a master?
Technically correct, although the person that knocked me over was not a black belt, so...
I mean, you're not just supposed to learn from people better than you.
I suppose that's true. It's a terrible situation because I can't even swear revenge against them. Because, like, they did kick me in the head and knock me over, but also they definitely pulled that kick because I still have all my teeth. And I apologized afterwards and stuff. So I can't even be mad at them about it. I can only be mad at myself for letting it happen.
You'll do better next time. Okay, that'll do it. Check us out on Twitter at Unwise Girls. Got all our links, Discord, email, Patreon. If you want to support the show, leave us a review, tell your friends, maybe play an episode for them while you're like hanging out.
Lock them in a room and make them listen.
We've got clips show your friends clips.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. Jane does a really good job on those.
Oh, thank you.
You can rate us 5 stars. And also write review. There are many things you can do to help. Foremost among them is the Patreon. Patreon.com/unwisegirls. If you want to help us out a whole ton, we've got 3 reward tiers. At $1, you become in the Discord a camp counselor. And you get the special honor of being a camp counselor. If you do $3, you get all of our bonus content and a special role as a friend of Dionysus. And if you pay $5 a month, you get a special Discord role of Aphrodite's Chosen, all of our bonus content. This includes stuff like talking about Homestuck, talking about movies we've watched, talking about just our thoughts and feelings on things. Jane's watching Riverdale now. If you want to hear what Jane thinks about Riverdale, you can watch that.
Yeah, I'm being made to watch Riverdale and read Homestuck, so if you want to watch my brain get poisoned in real time, listen to the bonus episodes.
There was a funny thing that happened last year where I was like, Jane, you should you should read Homestuck and watch Riverdale. And she said, I will never in my life do either of those things. And then half a year ago, she was like, okay, I'm reading Homestuck now, but I will never watch Riverdale. And I guess I've chipped away at her.
You chipped away at me. It turns out that being paid by our wonderful patrons to do those things is a pretty decent motivator.
If you're a $5 patron, you also get a special shout out at the end of episodes.
Speaking of, this week we'd like to thank Mercy, Veronica, Friend, and Erica.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And as we always say, at the end of every single episode...
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood.
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood.
Bye-bye.
Bye.